Welcome to Careers in Discovery, your window into the world of biotech leaders. On each episode, we interview the industry's leading executives to understand how they built their careers, what they've learned along the way, and the advice they'd give to their younger selves. This time on Careers in Discovery, we're with Mirko Buchholz, co-founder and managing director at PerioTrap Pharmaceuticals, a company tackling one of the world's most widespread and underestimated diseases, periodontitis. Mirko talked to us about how a passion for science sparked his journey into drug discovery, resilience in biotech, the realities of raising money in an overlooked therapeutic area, and why he believes that patience, curiosity, and adaptability are the essential traits for any scientist considering the leap into entrepreneurship.
So welcome back to Careers in Discovery. Today I'm joined by Mirko Buchholz, Managing Director at PerioTrap Pharmaceuticals. Welcome, Mirko.
Hi. Thank you for reaching me out.
It's a pleasure to have you. Shall we start by talking a little bit more about the work you and PerioTrap are doing at the moment?
Okay, first to my person. I am the co-founder or one of the co-founders and the CSO. And more, maybe we could speak a bit later on that, also the CDO, the Chief Development Officer at the company. The company itself is located in Halle at the River Saale. And somebody who doesn't know where Halle is, it's in the Leipzig area in the southern of Berlin. We as a company are a spin-off of Fraunhofer, and at the moment we have 10 people that are working with us. And in short, PerioTrap develops approaches for the treatment of periodontitis, and we are also developing oral care products for the preservation of the oral microbiome. A bit longer story is that if we are talking about all of these things, then we are talking about periodontitis. It's also known as gum disease, so this should be much more familiar to the people. An interesting thing is that this is a disease where more than 50% of all adults in the world is affected with.
Wow.
And this disease is a local inflammation of the gum. And the interesting thing is here that this is caused by bacteria, by an infection of bacteria. And this permanent local inflammation has consequences not only for the teeth and also the teeth loss and gum loss, but also for other things like systemic diseases. There are really things like diabetes, heart attack, arthritis, or even AD is meanwhile attributed with this disease itself. And this is mainly, if you think about this is again to say it's the reason for this is the local inflammation. So if you have such a permanent inflammation, then of course, if you have a look at diabetes, it's nearly the same effect. There you have in the fat tissue also the production of inflammation markers, and that's the same as in the non-treated periodontitis. And so it's nearly clear that you have such a big coincidence of diabetes and also of periodontitis. Also, if you think about the fact then you have this bleeding, if your gum is bleeding, then of course the bacteria will enter your body. And in the body, they are doing the same things. So you find this bacteria in the plaques, for instance, of blood vessels, and also in the joints, you find some things of this bacteria, and this then also leads then to this inflammation of things, and altogether, so is really affecting the body. So periodontitis itself is, as I said, local, but it has consequences, as I said.
Yeah.
And we are, as a company, are developing two different approaches. One is in a clinical stage, phase 1, We are looking for the start of this. We have some issues with the material, but we have the approval of the authorities here. And the other one, and that's the one I want to talk more about, is a so-called anti-virulence approach. This is an approach where we are targeting so-called keystone pathogens selectively.
Right.
You have to know in that regard that the oral microbiome is or consists of more than 700 different bacterial strains. So you have in your mouth 700 different strains. It's a bit comparable, not that complex, but a bit comparable to your other microbiome in your
In your gut, kind of.
in your gut. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Missing the word. So in your gut, it's not that complex, but it's really comparable. And but for the development of the disease, there are only few bacteria really responsible. And so we are calling this as a shift from the eubiotic stage or symbiotic stage to dysbiotic stage. And our approach is made for selectively blocking the virulence of these keystone pathogens. So we are not affecting the good ones, the conventional ones, with our approach. And this then leads to a reshift to the eubiotic or symbiotic stage of the oral microbiome. And we are not killing the bacteria itself, so we are not affecting them, that we are putting a lot of pressure to them, and it's just blocking the virulence, the toxicity of this bacteria. And for that reason, we really believe that here we have a much less pressure regarding the development of resistances. So this is this is a bit special to our approach here. Yes.
I always like to ask when we're interviewing careers in discovery, how you decided that a career in science, particularly within drug discovery, was the path for you? Let's go back to the beginning.
Yes, I have thought a lot of these things before this podcast, and if I'm thinking back, it was in the age of 16 where I really had the question. It is the time where in Germany you have to change from the middle school to the high school. And for that reason, you have to think about your advanced courses. I do not know how this is regulated in UK, but in Germany you have such advanced courses. And of course, for me, my interest I was really in love with chemistry and with biology. That was not the question, but the question was what I can then do when with this special and advanced courses later on. And at this time, I do not know if this is still the case, but at this kind, there were such called career centers of the employment office for young people. There you could go in and there you could say, okay, these are my interests. Please have a look which kind of professions could be fit into that interests. And it came out that there were two things on the first in the ranking list on the first places. One was medicine and the other one was pharmacy. And I thought, okay, medicine, you have to learn a lot of these bones in the body and the tissues and all of these things. Let's try pharmacy. It seems that this is a bit easier to learn. What I didn't know at this time is that it isn't the case. So you also have to learn a lot of plants and also all of this other things. But at this time, I was really choosing the pharmacy as a study. And thinking back, it was one of the best choices that I have ever done, because it's a hard study, I have to say, but it makes you to a generalist in the life science field. You are really you are not really good in a lot of details, so to say. Only in formulation, pharmaceutical formulation. That's the only thing where are really good. But coming to pharmacology, medicinal chemistry, and so on, you're not an expert, but you understand the language of the different areas that are talking. And I made really the experience that if you have two scientists from different fields, both are talking and both believe that they are understanding the other ones, but sometimes really it isn't the case. So
Talking
and
different languages.
yes, they are really talking different languages, even if they are really related sciences. So, and this was really interesting for me. And this is one of the great advantages studying pharmacy here that was made. Another point was, but this was not a decision from it was an external decision. So for my career, it was really important where I study pharmacy. And
Okay.
in Germany, for some areas, you have a numerus clausus, and you also have such an office where which decides on which university you will get your place for the study.
Yeah.
And in my case, it was Halle, so I have to move to Halle. I even didn't know really where Halle was located until this. So I have to look at the map. But at the end, it's a really nice city, I have to say. But this has a lot of consequences because the university itself is located at Biocampus. And at this Biocampus, there are a lot of biotechs. At the time where I was starting the study there, it was just growing after the change and the reunification. So there was starting this business there at this campus, and so you have a lot of smaller spin-off startups and so on. You have really a nice surrounding for such things, and you got the opportunity after your study to move to them. Let's say it in that way. And last but not least, of course, when studying in Halle, I met my wife. So I mean, it's always the point, and it was not a decision, as I said. That's my wife, of course, but it was not a decision that I moved to Halle. That was not my decision. Yes. So, and as I said, it's a tough study. It was a tough study, and after the study, that was another point. You have to do after the university a practical year. And this practical year, before your final exam, you have to do half a year in the public pharmacy. And the other half of the year, you could choose. You could go to the industry, you could go to biotech, you could go to the hospital, you could choose wherever you want. And I was lucky because I applied for 2 different jobs, and both of them said, okay, please start. And the first one was...
How did you choose?
I have done both.
Brilliant.
So yes, I have done both because this was a chance for me just to look into different areas here. So the first, I did my diploma thesis at Biotech, small biotech, PerioTrap called at this time. And they developed at this time in the starting of the 2000s, they were developing DPP-4 inhibitors. That was the first company that have these inhibitors into the clinics. And it was licensed out by Merck. And later on, it was sold, the whole program, to Precision. And Merck, based on this knowledge that they have from this licensed in molecule, they then later on developed Januvia, and this was one of the blockbusters of Merck US in the last decade. So sitagliptin was one of the molecules of the years at that time. So, and I was developing some DP4 inhibitors, of course, not that ones, but I was working on that program. And that was very, very nice because it was flexible. It was a very dynamic surrounding. So that was very fun to work there. And after this, I went to Bayer in Leverkusen, also for half a year. And the great thing there was that in the first 4 weeks, they put every of these practitioners together. They put it in an omnibus, and then we could see really every aspect of the development and also the production of medicines. So we see the synthesis in ton scale. We also see the research and development labs, analytical labs, animal health, and so on and so on. This was really fun. It was also a great summer at this time. And there I was working then on a small analytical project in Big Pharma. But then I have really to decide what to do after this, join Big Pharma or go back to the biotech. And I decided
having experienced both, what would you say were the main differences?
The main difference is that, as I said, I would like to come later also to this with my experience in the biotech. You are much more flexible in the biotech. You get much more responsibility in the first time. But of course, you are struggling with the financial situation. Always. You only have the horizon of a year, 2 years, 3 years, and every time you are then you're then hoping that the next financial round will come. I believe in my PhD thesis I had, I believe, 10 contracts in sum on the company just for a month and 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and so on. So there you have to live with. So it's a kind of a different pressure, I would say. And in Big Pharma, I believe it makes much more sense if you want to bring for sure something into the market. So they have their processes, and they have. It's not that dynamic, I have to say, especially when it comes to a Germany-based pharma company. So they are really nicely organized, of course, but it's a bit like an public office, I want to say. So it's a bit something like this. So, and it takes sometimes also long to get the decisions you need just to work to go forward with your work. So it depends what you want. So in that regard.
Yeah, that was interesting. Thank you.
So, as I said, next decision was then where to do my PhD thesis. And at this time, as I said, the company has sold the whole DPP4 portfolio to another company, and they were now focused on a completely different approach. This was, and at this time, Alzheimer's disease. And this was a completely new target. And this was also really interesting because if you and I was able to be the first the first scientist who synthesized inhibitors against this target. So nothing was known about this before, and this was like white sheet of paper where then you could put your own thinkings on this, and this was very, very interesting at this point. And there are, I also have to say, there are a lot of pros and cons doing your PhD thesis on a company or also on a more or less on a biotech there, especially. So as I said, pros are very great because you have a very dynamic development there. at this time, everything was growing. So after this deal, they come with small molecules into the focus of the company itself. They have developed the whole chemical department. I was one of the first that are joined at this point there. And as I said, working as the first on a target, this is really great. And yes, and then it further develops because then more and more other colleagues joined, also much better medicinal chemists than me. And so I was looking for something else, and this was computational chemistry at that point. And this again was really building up a new area in the company. So they didn't have really a computational chemistry department there. They have some things outsourced, but at the end it was on my responsibility just to look for the right computers, the right software, what to do, how to use all of the things. And this was also again a nice thing to build something new on this in this area. And also a great approach there was that I was familiar with synthesis itself. So it's a great combination because normally you have this you have the computational chemist and you have the synthetic chemist, and the computational chemist says, okay, you have to synthesize this molecule, and the synthetic guy says, no, it isn't possible to do that. So there are always conflicts on that, and for that reason, it was great to be again in the middle and act as a kind of an translator here. What could be possible, what isn't possible, and also to judge the computational models in the reality. So that was also
it must really
experience.
The speed to effectiveness with you being able to look at both sides is far greater, isn't it?
Yes. It speeds a lot up the whole discovery because so we were able just to communicate on a very short line. So that this was very great at this moment. Yeah, but I have also to say there are some cons if you are dealing to doing your PhD in an biotech company, because if you are working on really interesting projects, then of course the company is interested in filling IP. And this has consequences because your PhD defense has to be at the university, of course. And this alone is also a con because you are a kind of outsider. So we are not inside the university, and it doesn't matter if how good your PhD thesis is. You just got a minus because you're not inside the
really?
The circle of trust, I have to say here.
Okay.
All in all, it works fine, but as I want to say, this is really a con. Also, as I said, there is only public defense possible. That means you have to wait. You have to wait before your IP is filled and is published. And this means you have, after finishing your PhD thesis, you have to wait for 18 months before your defense. And of course, you have to do a lot of other things then, but it's a kind of frustrating time. And also before publishing it in journals, and so you also have to wait. So this is also a con. And this is a pro and a con, I want to say, being at the biotech, because the next point is that you are not involved in teaching at the university. On one time, this is a pro because you have much more time for your own thesis, for working on your own things. On the other hand, I have learned years later on that it makes a lot of fun to teach people and to share your own experiences. And this is a kind of a pro and a con. So it depends on what's your own experience there.
Later on in your career, you went back to being a guest lecturer. So I suppose you found a way to satisfy that
Yes,
kind of disappointment that you had.
yes, later on, it was possible to do this,
Yeah.
and as I said, this was really, it added an additional point of stress because you have to prepare the lessons in your free time. Of course, it's not in the interest of your company that you are doing that, but on the other hand, as I said, it makes fun to do such things.
Yeah.
Yes,
And it was a passion for you, so it was
it was
personally worth
great.
the
Yes,
investment.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then the second point, or the second major point in the career was then that I have to change from Biotech, the biotech company, to Fraunhofer. And the reason behind this was that there was a board decision in 2012, where they have decided to cut the whole basic research at Biotech because they just want to focus only on their clinical development. So they just say, okay, we have a lot of projects, we have to focus here. It completely makes sense at that point.
Yeah.
But this resulted then in cutting also of the people from 120 to 15 to 20
Wow, that's a huge
at the
cut,
company
isn't it?
level.
Yeah.
And my former boss at ProBioDrug, the CSO of the company, they don't want really to let go all of these experts. So as you might imagine, there were a lot of people there who were really experts in the field of preclinical development, in also in different fields. And so this is one of the advantages of such a small local state like Saxony-Anhalt. There the ways are very short for the discussion with politicians, for instance.
Right, okay.
And he was able to convince people in the government just to invest in the foundation of a Fraunhofer subsidiary there. And it takes a lot of time, I have to say, because as you might imagine, you have to follow all of the democratic processes behind this. You need the budget, and so on. And the interesting thing here is that in the rules of Fraunhofer, such a foundation has to be financed by the local state for at least 5 years. So, and after this, then you will go through the whole Fraunhofer model, financial model. Then, but the first 5 years you have to be financed there, and this was really also stressing times for us. It takes nearly a year to convince all of the political parties there, and you are just waiting for the things. And the next problem was that you have to ensure that the key people that you want to hold on your side are really then there after, even after one year. So it was interesting.
What do people do in that year? So they're not employed, so they've been let go.
They were employed. They were employed in other jobs. That was the point here.
Wow! So they all went off to different companies.
Most of them really nicely find a new job, but of course, because before that it was a kind of family. So there was also waiting for this decision. And as I said, it takes more than a year to get all parties on your side, and everything was fine. And in the summer, so in the spring 2013, it seems that it's only a question of time. And in June this year, there was a great flooding, a great flood of the River Saale, and parts of the city were underwater. And they were shortly before the evacuation of a whole district. And then the MP stands on the dam and say, okay, we must cut all of the not needed investments because we have to help the people here. Completely understandable.
Yeah.
But we got this from the news, and this was a bit of frustrating at this point.
Yeah.
But it only, and this is the other turnaround. It takes only 2 or 3 weeks, and then another event were in the news because the local states get money according to the number of inhabitants that they have.
Right.
And there
Okay.
was a census collecting all of the numbers of the people, and it
Yeah.
seems that the local state was underestimated. So they have shown they had more people than thought before, and for that reason, there was put more money into
Surplus
the
money.
budget.
Yeah.
Yes. And the interesting thing was that our institution was then one of the few things that could be financed from that
Wow.
additional thing. So there was
It's a roller
in
coaster, though.
2013. 2013 was a
Yeah.
good year for a heart attack for us. So I have to
Yeah.
say,
How
a
do
lot
you
of up and
mentally
down.
cope? How do you mentally cope with all those ups and downs?
You have to deal with that. So, I mean, as I
I love
said,
the response.
the time before in the biotech, where you also only have 1 year at maximum, this helps a lot. This helps really a lot because you're learning that you have just to have patient. You have just to have just to be patient. And also, I have to say again, there the pharmacy studies come into the game because at the end I have a backup. At the end, I always could go to a public pharmacy with my exam and could work there, and I would be always able to earn the money for my family, so to say. That's a kind of a
It's always
secure
having the faith
stage.
that no
Yeah.
matter what direction it goes in, it's going to work out.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
will be, will be.
So this was as I said, 2012 and 2013 was really hard. And one of the one of the last things I would mention was we then so the project was a kind of the source of this project where then the company was founded is based on the EU FP7 project. So there we have dealt in Fraunhofer with the development of the first inhibitors for these bacterial enzyme, as I said. And then we did the spin-off in the end of 2018. And then it took us nearly 2 years to get founded by VC. And this is also an interesting story here because we have really the problem that we are in the field of oral care. So we are not in the focus of pharma companies. Also, VC companies are not dealing with dental care products. On one hand. And on the other hand, in the dental field, there are a lot of hidden champions. It's also money there, but they do not really know how to develop drugs. So they are really afraid of the risk. And so they are more dealing with medtech and something like this and materials and something. So we are really on the edge of two different areas here. So, and that was one of the problems that we have when it came to the financing, the first seed round.
How did you overcome that?
That's the point. What I want to mention here, we have done a lot of these business contests. So I do not know how this is in UK, but in Germany you have a lot of these contests, and there you could earn money if you are on the first, second, or third place. And beside other things, this helps us a bit to keep the company running on one hand. And after this 2 years, then Corona was also a big issue here. And then We were lucky, and we could say, okay, now we have we should do a very small seed round here, very very small in that aspect, and then my ex-boss at this time came and say, okay, there's one more contest you have to participate. And I said, oh no, no one more. And I said, okay, let's have a look at the paperwork. Maybe it's not that a piece of work. And indeed, it came out that it wasn't that stressful thing there. And we applied. And we were then also in the pitching round. And last but not least, we won not only our own area, but also the general prize. And this was then published in newspapers, online, and so on. And in that time, as I said, we were shortly before closing the seed financing round. And then I got an email. And at that time, I got a lot of such emails. And in that email, there was written, please, I have seen this prize. We are interested. It makes sense. We want to invest in you. And I said, okay, another one. So I answered, okay, let's close the first round, and after that we will see. And then, but the guy wasn't really quiet. He answered back and said, okay, if you shortly before the first round, we should immediately speak to each other. And after then, I realized that the member of a board is really an important person. I was not aware of this, and also the company itself. At this time, I didn't know, but after a small research, I saw, okay, this is one of the major players. You should talk with them, and we did this. we did this, and with the first call, and they were very interested in that area that we have done, and also the project. And but we were a bit under pressure with the first financial round, and so they said, okay, let's meet at our headquarters. Please come in. We pay for the tickets, and we will interrupt our own holidays. And so we met, and after 2 days and after a handshake, then our seed round was doubled. And this was an extremely impressive event, I have to say. There are a lot of more details, but yes, that was interesting here.
I've been in life sciences for 15 years, and you're the first person that I've ever spoken to where the investor came to them, where they very nearly fobbed the investor off and said, yeah, we'll talk at some point later. That is a fantastic story, Mirko.
Yes, it was really impressive. I have to say, yes. Yeah. But it also put a lot of responsibility on your own shoulders, because as I said, handshake is handshake. So you have to deliver on that point.
Yeah.
Yes, that is also I believe one of the points that really were important for us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Last but not least.
Oh, go on.
Last but not least.
Yeah.
There is one point, and I believe I touched it a bit, and this was very influencing the development of the company itself. As I said, we came from Biotech company dealing with Alzheimer's disease development, and so their money was not really an issue, I have to say. So there was money there, and everything cost a lot of money. And as I said, we are on the edge of two different areas. And this brings us to the point that we have to realize that the financial rounds, or the amount of money that we could invest here is really, really much smaller than in other therapeutic areas here.
Yeah.
And as I said, one reason is that we are dealing with oral care. And especially there, it came to the problem of the reimbursement by the insurances. Because also in Germany, most of the things at a dentist is not reimbursed. So
Right, okay.
you have to pay it by your own, and this means a new product could not cost a lot of money. So you have really to streamline your own development to invest as less as possible, but to get the most data out of it. And this is meanwhile, this is included in our DNA, that we are really turning every coin before we are spending it. And it's also every time we are thinking, is this something that we have to source out? Should we include it internally? So there's always the things that we have to think about. And also, we are very price sensitive. So normally you can go, if you have a lot of money, you can go to a CRO and say, please do it. And he will do it for you, but it will cost you a lot of money. And so we always have to have the control about the whole process there. And this is also one of the main lessons that we've learned in the last 5 years, that we really have to take care about our money.
Yeah. What does that mean with the product where you have moved into clinic?
Also, this product is this is an interesting one, because it's a product with an USP, and the USP is the slow release of a well-known antibiotic. So here we are talking about minocycline. So these are threads, biodegradable threads that were put into the pocket, in the dental pockets, after the scale and root planning, after the cleaning of the pocket itself. Then this is put in, and as I said, the USP of this is the slow release over weeks. So normally the dentist would put some disinfectant, and this is gone after minutes. There are also some products on the market, especially in the US. This is Aristine. It's the most comparable to us. This will work for 1 week or something like this. Also, dental gels, they are working only for days. And the idea behind this is just to keep the pocket clean as long as possible, just to allow the wound healing, and then you will have this. Hopefully, you will have a better effect then after this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talking from personal experience, I very much hope this gets to market. I had a horrendous 4-month period of infection, back and forth, because it's so hard in the UK to get dentist appointments. I'd have some treatment and wouldn't be able to see them again for 2 months. So then I kept getting infections in between. So
that's
luck.
exactly the point where we want to where we want to act. Yes, that's the point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and coming back to the financial point, is that if we are talking about this minocycline, it's a well-known antibiotic used since the 70s of the last century. So it's safe. You could save a lot of preclinical studies. You do not have to spend to this, and the only thing is just doing a phase 1 clinical study, and then a combined clinical 2/3 study. And also there's literature, and you do not need that much amount of patients to see the effects that you want to have. And for that reason, it's a kind of balanced development of a drug. So you have an USP, but coming to the regulation, to the regulatory, you are really on a short way, and also on a more easy way, just to say it in that way. Yeah.
And then once you've had success with that, you'll be commercialized, and you can hopefully use the funds to
Yes.
put into other areas.
Yes, that's the plan for the future.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay.
If you were to give a piece of advice to somebody who's early in their career as a scientist, or they're in academia at the moment and they're thinking about moving to industry, what would your piece of advice be?
So first of all, I have to point out three things. Be patient, be patient, be patient. My experience says that the things will go, and it doesn't matter if you are under stress or not, they will come. You have to be focused in that what you are doing, of course. On one hand, during your PhD or later on as a postdoc, but on a certain point, you should also to have a look in other areas because it helps you a lot just to understand what is really needed for the drug development. Drug development is such a complex task. There are so much different aspects to think about that it's really helpful if you have a look to other areas and just think about these things. You have to be creative regarding if you then try to fund, for instance, a company or a biotech or something like this. You really have to be creative regarding venture. So apply for public funds if possible, mainly for the big ones, because it makes much more sense for the big ones as for the smaller ones, because the paperwork is exactly the same. And so from that regard, it makes more sense to do this. And as in our case, if you do not really find VCs or family offices that are willing, then try other possibilities. One example is our last extended seed round last year. There we have used a crowdfunding campaign, and this was co-financing our VC. And this really gives us a lot of confidence that we are on the right track, because we are dealing with a disease that is really underestimated from the pharma point of view, I would say, but it's really affecting a lot of people. Yeah. And we found 700 private investors that put their money into this crowd campaign, and this was really built up a lot of confidence for us that we are here on the right area. I have to say. Think different in general, as I said, and I have really to say, if you are thinking about which kind of study you should do, I really would say, think about pharmacy. It's a really great study. So, and really, if this is also a point in your daily work, if there are things where you are where you are blind, or where you do not know how to get the information, then please think about where you get the advice, maybe from a specialist, or if this is a broader field, then maybe the specialist could be generated by your own, so that you are always keep learning on different things, dive deep into things, but you have to be careful which area you choose there, because it might be that after several years that isn't anymore really the area that it is worth to invest in. So you have to really keep focused on that. And yes, then I believe we have touched this a bit. If I would give an advice, biotech or pharma, it depends on the point what you want to do. If you are really want to develop something completely new, then join biotech with all of these pros and cons. You have to deal with this. I have to say, the smaller the company, the higher is the chance to be in the circle of trust. So in the circle of the decision makers, I have to say. and the more dynamic the work will be, and also the more areas you will touch by yourself. The smaller the company, the more things you have to do by your own.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you want to bring some things or some products really on the market, if you really are convinced and you want to be a specialist in a special area, then join pharma. I believe that's the best place to have success with products
Yeah.
bringing to the markets. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you
the
very
point.
much for sharing. My final question, and we've covered it a little bit in terms of what's next. What's next for you? What's next for PerioTrap?
Next, yeah, it's a really interesting year. We will introduce our first products in April this year. Our care products,
Not
I have to say.
long. Yeah, not long at all.
And this is really exciting to have your own babies in hand, and go to the fairs and show this. Yes. We will also do studies in volunteers, just to have a look if or how the products are performing in regard of the oral microbiome, in the protection of the oral microbiome. We will do this,
Yeah.
and hopefully we will have the results at the end of this year. We also will do proof of concept studies in dogs. The interesting thing is not only humans are affected by periodontitis, also dogs are affected,
Yeah,
and
of
the
course.
pathogens that are responsible for this are very closely related to that in humans. So we have shown that the approach should also work in dogs. And the interesting thing is, in dogs, you do not have any really working approach at the moment. So,
Okay.
and we will see this first results in Q3 this year.
Yeah.
And last but not least, and this is also one point that I want to mention, or one of the hints for if you want to found a company, put some businessman or woman on your side, because he or she is really the guy who will bring your company into the right financial aspects. And I've made the experience that I really love science, I really love other areas, but this is something that I wouldn't touch at all. And I have really the luck that the guy who is doing that at our companies, the CEO, is also a kind of biochemist. So he has both things,
Okay.
the business role as also the scientific one, and this makes things easier, I have to say, in discussions. And yes, this is one of the advisors, and this is connected to that we are planning this year our Series A financial round,
Exciting.
and this will be hopefully also closed at the end of this year, and this will bring us mainly to the clinical development of the second approach with the second product that we have talked before.
Yeah. Something that really you just exhume creativity, whether that's just you, but the whole business, in terms of how you've raised funding, in terms of how you're looking at different markets, pivoting the science. Real discovery and innovative discovery with products that you know can work in the market, but can bring some cash to the business. I feel very confident that you will achieve your Series A.
Hopefully. Hopefully. Thank you very much.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you as part of Careers in Discovery, Mirko. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for reaching me out.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe and share it with someone else you think will benefit. And for more podcasts, videos, blogs and insights, come follow me, Tom Froggatt, on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Medium or TikTok. See you next time.